that is not inside the community, that does not serve the community from the inside out. That was Mrs. Harris's question. And it is a question other parents had, was the relative geographical location of the police station 90% further distant from the rest of the community. I know that we discussed the transportation.
I think that's a question that the superintendent and the Board of Education can probably answer, given their input of why they come to that conclusion. I wasn't privy to those discussions.
Right. So that's the delineation between the school and the government. So that's the question there. Here's another one recreation areas. We're just covering a couple of school questions. What happens to recreation areas around the school? There's not very much parking available, and will they have to take those areas? So the question here, I think it's related to Eastwood, and I'm assuming this is Miss Fegley. Ms. Fegley, can you expand on that?
Programs at the rec programs at Eastwood? I don't know what programs are at Eastwood.
There is not very much parking in front of that school. They had the top lot in the front of the school. They just extended and moved it in back with parking. And if they move the police station in there, they're going to have more parking than what's available up there now. And we have all our recreation areas surrounding that school that all the children in the neighborhood play in. And basketball court, tennis court, monkey bars and all that kind of stuff, and their ball fields. They have one up top and one at the bottom. So what are they going to take? They're going to have to take something to make more parking for that area.
And there again, I think that would be something the police chief, the one who runs that department and has been in discussions with the administration, or with the Board of Ed, to answer that question for you, because I don't have an answer.
You know how it.
Yes, ma'am. I grew up in Eastwood.
Yes, ma'am.
And there's one that Mr. Russell is in the back, and so there's one opportunity that we have to address some of the councilman's points and yours, is that we can submit a request for a public information hearing held by the county. They have glitzier stuff than us over here. And so that way, there can be some information, like you said, from the police chief and from the fire chief and from Public Works and the recycling folks and things like that.
Johnny to have that public
Well, that's so, Mr. Long. We have a form that people would fill out and send in to request the public information meeting, and so we can put that in an email and very easy to get it to you. I just want to keep going with questions. If you have questions, write on a card or something. We can get you a card there. So a couple other things here is, and this is an excellent question. And I don't have an answer at all. And but it's just that what has been the rationale given for the police station having to move to Eastwood? So and that was something that other folks have asked, is why do we need it to? Why does it need to be moved there? And I don't know.
I don't have the whole answer.
I know you may not know.
I don't have the whole answer, but as you know, it's all part of the equation that if they sell the building. If they, and if you get what you want, and all the programs are better, and I don't even know what's going to happen. Maybe somebody puts in a proposal if they build a new building close by, and it houses all the programs, and it meets all the needs of the programs, but you haven't even given it a chance to be heard. And that's the only thing I'm saying. But with the police station, I guess with it being part of the building, it's an older building. They're looking for a new police station. I think the police chief will tell you. I'm not going to speak for him, but he's going to tell you that it's an older building. We're looking for another building, and maybe if all this goes away, maybe in a few years they just go and the county looks for another place to build a police station or something along those lines. It may be about economics. It may be about they're looking at. So that's something that he'll have to give the answer to be honest with you.
Kevin Cabinet says it's the police department's idea, and the police department says he's a liar.
Well, I don't know if they said that. Maybe they were in their sleep, but maybe not.
It was in the newspaper. Kevin said it was his idea, and the police chief said it was.
Yeah.
If you give me that article, I'll take it to the administration and I'll find out what's going on.
Yeah, the press release from December 11th, on the county website, and then actually that was another one issued on the 14th, and still on there states that the county executive, proposed that idea initially, and then the Eagle stated differently January 4th. So, Here's one.
I'll try to find out for you.
Yeah, but if there needs to be proposals for why we told our school would no longer be open at the end of the school year. So, oh, I'm sorry. Well, then I have better. Yes, sir. It says BCBS has no request to close Eastwood, and again, that's the only quote that I can give you about that is that the Board of Education stated. I'm sorry, the board president stated that no information had been presented to the board, and they were not aware of any proposal. And that was a question that other members of the community had, which was, if the board president is stating no information has been presented, but an agent of the board is telling us to pick A or B, and we were wondering, is there an option C, which is to keep the building? So that's a question that we've all had. So thank you for whoever wrote that. We want to do some questions here about the RFP and whatnot. So we have, here's one. Will the bids in response to the RFP be opened at a public meeting? Or I guess is that open for review by the public at a meeting?
No, we would know what the bids are.
So I guess I'm not an expert on that.
I'm not an expert. I know the bids are opened. I can find that answer out for you. It's the best answer I have.
So I'm going to
Simon,
Answer that question. I'm done.
I would think it would be an open meeting.
okay,
where,
sir, yeah.
I would think it would be an open meeting where they would make a video.
Well,
I would imagine.
You would think so. Yesterday, Delegate Olszewski, Delegate Weir, and myself confronted the county executive's staff, and I asked her, we're not happy with this RFP. Are you going to have a public hearing? She said, no, we have not planned a public hearing for this. So there's a very short answer. We were told that yesterday. Why? I don't know. The only answer she gave me was no, we are not going to have the open hearing, a public hearing on it. Now, that's from the county executive's office, not the councilman or anybody else.
If we were Towson, would it be different?
Pardon?
If it were Towson, would it
Well, that's another issue. I don't know how in
John, what
Towson.
can you do about that for us?
This is what I will do for you. This is what I will do. I will talk to the county executive and I will tell him that we would like to have a meeting with the community so that he can hear, or his directors can hear. I would like to have the police chief there. Okay. We will, look, I will, all I can do is I can be your advocate and I can ask to do what you want me to do, and I'll do that. I will ask him to be there. I will ask him to have the police chief there, and I will ask him to have the superintendent there. That way, all your questions can be answered by the people who have been involved in doing this. And all I wanted to say is this, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong. If at the end of the day, we can have a place where all our programs are taken care of in a new and better facility, no ball fields, okay, and have a chance to have economic development in our district, right here in our district. Hold on, let me get to that point. That's the first point. Would we agree that I think is a positive thing that happens in our community? You don't want economic development in your community. Okay? We got people who are out of jobs right now, who are out of benefits right now, and you don't want economic development in this.
Why not? We're the old point.
Guys, please be quiet.
I just said, if you have your fields, and if you have all your programs taken care of, and they're in a better place, wouldn't that be nice? Okay. Okay. Some of you say no. Some of them say yes. And for the 1 second, please. And for the school issue, I will go back and find out if there's another way that they can do something. But they're going to have to do something because Halliburton is 58% of capacity. So they have to do something. It's not Eastwood's fault. It's not Norwood's fault. It's not Dundalk Middle's fault. But it has to be addressed. And that's what the superintendent and the Board of Education are charged to do for the students of Baltimore County. And that's what they're doing. I'm not saying it's the right thing. I'll try to get in dialogue to make something else happen where everybody can be concerned. But you know what? What happens if they take the students from Dundalk Middle School and they take them all to Hollenberg Middle School? Well, hold on a second. You don't think the parents are going to say, you're taking my kids out of a school to go to another school? I'm going to get the same argument. That's just a thought I had.
Guys,
Kids who go to
please,
middle school.
guys, you gotta calm down.
I
please.
understand, from my perspective, I understand the most difficult issue is the school. I understand that. I get it. I grew up in Eastwood, so I get it. I know what's going on.
So's the theater. We're important to all of us, all of it.
But you're not listening to me.
We are.
Okay. I just said, at the end of the process, if you get a better theater, let's say you get a better theater.
But can I say one thing? We want to be a part of the process. We want to know what's happening. We want it to be built before they tear the other one down, and we want to be at the table.
I understand that.
We're just saying we want to be a part of the decision-making process about all of it. We want to be included.
Look, if somebody puts a proposal on the table, and you look at that proposal and you are happy because they're going to take care of sky's the limit and they're going to give you a brand new facility, okay? What is wrong with that?
Where's the room in Dundalk to do this?
Wait a minute, guys. Please be quiet. Come on.
Yes.
You and I both know that passive recreational use of that site goes on daily. The fields are important to the community.
I understand.
We have kids who will have no place to go from here to the Q Street in West Inverness other than the Inverness Center. We have no places for these kids to go. So you take fields away from the Eastfield Scarborough community, it will be a problem for the kids that live there. They're very interested in the fields. They use them, John, and you have ignored the community of Eastfield Scarborough in this whole process.
I have not ignored the community of Eastfield in this process. It's a process that's playing out right now, and a lot of you are from Eastfield here, and I'm here today. I'm not offering anything. I am just being your elected official saying, let's look at what could be, and if it isn't good enough, then it'll stay the way it is. We'll have an aging building, and your kids from the program will be in that building. And the younger kids will be playing that gymnasium. Look, I coached and kids played in there back in 20 years ago. And I know what that indoor gym looks like. I know what it smells like. And I know what's behind those walls. I guarantee there's mold behind those walls. I guarantee it. So our kids are playing in there. And it's like, if you had a better facility, I just don't know.
Well, my question is, I'm Jane Brown Aller. I'm Vice President of the Great Manor Association. I know Kevin Cabinets needs $18 million, and my question is to all of you, why does he have to come down to Dundalk to get it?
Why does he need $18 million?
They've taken from us over and over again. And how have you heard the rumors about the box stores? Believe me, we have empty stores up and down Merritt Boulevard. Then we have houses that are sitting in foreclosure. We don't need more residents. So what do we need down here? We already have it. And why should we let them come down and take it away? And they will promise you the world. But do you trust these people? No. They have never included you ever. And Kevin Cabinets is not for us. That's right. And he never will be for us. And you need to be loud and clear. And you need to make your voice be heard, because he is not going to be on your side, because he has his own agenda.
Thank you
very much.
I'll put it this way. If you don't want the process to play out, you don't want a chance of maybe having a new building and all this and that, we can cut the whole thing out today and be the way it is. Hold on a second. Yes, sir.
You know they're not going to replace that theater. You know how big that thing is? The money that it would go to rebuild that? There's no way.
But I don't know that until I get a proposal. And does it hurt to see something? And then if it's not good enough, then say, then we don't do it. You do.
All right, folks, we have a procedure. 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 Let's see, what's that? 9 times. Folks, we have a procedure. I warned the committee I would do that. Okay. There's another gentleman that I think has a chance to speak, and Johnny O. Jr. is going to speak in just a moment. We want to get another question out that a member of the public asked, and thank you, sir, for your comments. Appreciate that. But no, this was a larger issue related to the governor and the announcement at Overlea High School. Yes, as said, the governor announced that Overlea High School that he is going, well, he's proposing to the legislature $25 million for air conditioning for schools. Now, personally, I don't know if that means it is indeed for Baltimore County, so I can't speak to that, but I just know what it states. And right, and understood. And isn't that? And the question that this person in public said is, isn't that the reason for the purpose of the sale of the North Point Government Center was for the air conditioning of the schools? So that is a question I have myself, and I haven't read up much on that. But, sir, would you like to speak to that, please?
Hi, everybody. So on the air conditioning question, and I'll get to that, and then I'll just sort of talk a little bit about some other issues. But so actually, we've been working hard as the state legislative delegation to Annapolis. And I know Delegate Minnick had already spoke. Delegate Weir is here as well. Senator Stone's recovering from surgery, otherwise he'd be here too.
Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Delegate John Olszewski Jr.
Thank you.
Sure. Want to make sure we follow protocol, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So the $25 million fund is something that the state has never done before, and the governor has done it at the urging of primarily the Baltimore County House delegation, which I'm honored to chair, and I've got some great support from our local reps and the rest of the county. Baltimore County has 1/3 of the unair conditioned schools in the state. So of that $25 million fund, we're pretty much expecting at least 1/3 of that fund to go towards air conditioning in schools in Baltimore County. Now, $8 to $10 to $12 million a year is only a small piece of what we actually need to actually air condition all of our schools. My understanding is that Baltimore County has an infrastructure sort of long-term plan, and the school system certainly would be better to talk about this, but it's in the hundreds of millions of dollars of expense in terms of all of the upgrades they want to do. That's the $25 million question. As far as the sort of proposal process that's been played out, I think Sonny hit the nail on the head a little bit, and we were pretty animated with the representative of the county executive on Friday when we had a chance to talk to them, because it is important. There are a lot of legitimate questions that people have about what's being proposed. And it's impossible for me, and quite frankly, I know if it's impossible for me, it's impossible for anyone else to sort of make an informed decision about whether or not it's something that actually enhances our community or is a detriment. And so we've been urging very strongly that the county executive have a team, that he come out, that he have the superintendent of schools, he has the chief of police, he has folks that could actually answer these very legitimate questions about the process, to come forward and talk to the community so people can say, this is what it will mean. And then I think at that point, I mean, it is impossible to make a decision and to know what's being discussed, and there are a lot of moving parts. So the commitment you have from me, and I know from the rest of the legislative team, and I'm sure the councilmen, is that we will do whatever we can to make sure that any questions you have get answered. And then once those questions are answered, as we make a collective determination about whether or not it's a good idea to move forward or not, as a community, we'll support whatever we decide as a community. And that's my pledge today. And you know, trust me, I share in that sense of it would have been a lot better to come on the front end and say, here's what we're thinking about, give us some feedback.
Right, exactly.
That's the way, that's the best way to govern, I think, is to talk to people and say, hey, you know, maybe, and I don't know what the proposals are going to be, but to say we can maybe provide improved or new facilities for a theater group or whatever, but to have that conversation on the front end instead of saying, here's a press release.
Right, that's how we learned about it.
You know, that's how a lot of us learned about it.
But with all the money that's available, why is Dundalk losing a school and Towson's getting a new one?
Well, what do you mean? Are we following the process?
Thank you So listen, everybody, and we want to have that meeting with the county executive and Jimmy Johnson and everybody else, and we can have it right in the theater at the North Point Government Center. And 650 people can all fit there. So please let us know, and we'll be glad to have it there. Okay, and thank you. Can we get back to? Thank you so much. And we're glad that our elected officials are here. We welcome you. And we're glad you're here. And we count on you to represent us. We're counting on you to fight for us and to do what the people want. Okay, got it? Let's go back to the question.
Yeah, and I think it is very helpful that our representatives came, so can you all, whether you agree or disagree, it's okay. I think as Americans, they get a round of applause for coming. And in the spirit of transparency, I know some folks might be getting hungry or thirsty. And the reason I say that is that we have this room until 2 o'clock, which is an interesting question because we can't just snap our fingers and the chairs all go back at 2 o'clock. So we'll probably need to wrap up at 1:30-ish. All right. And also, I want to recognize there is a company that did these for us, these shirts. If you're interested in making a donation for the shirts, you can. There's out in the parking lot afterwards. You can do that. No one's making any money on that. In fact, we're losing money on that. But just so you know. And the second thing, in the spirit of transparency, is I see your hand there, sir. Is that some of the questions are difficult to answer. They're hypotheticals. So we have those. Okay. And yeah, thank you. But so here's one question, for example. Is a community meeting required for a PUD proposal? Okay, that's an example of a pretty specific, straightforward question that gentlemen can answer.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Actually, we changed the PUD process, so I think there's 2 meetings. I know there is 2 meetings.
Right.
Not 1, you have 2.
Now, and then there's other questions that, and just to be honest with everybody, or I should say, we say in full disclosure. Because when people say, "I'll be honest with you," I'm like, "Oh, well, so what is it the rest of the time?" Is when you say, "Is person X involved in the process?" So to be in full disclosure, if a person's name is mentioned and they're not a public official, we may recycle that question and address it a different way. Okay, but we're not going to throw your question away, but we'll just address it differently.
Why don't we just? It's a transparent meeting.
Right.
It's a transparent meeting. Why don't we ask the question? I mean,
okay. Oh well.
It's transparency. That's the best thing.
My question is, what does John Bontraum have to do?
Well, you see, I set you. I'm sorry for you. I set you all up on purpose.
It's part of the process.
No, you're exactly right. I set you all up on purpose because this is what we call collaboration. And this is why we put the circle this way.
I can answer this because, like everybody else, we all know that he went to the communities with a plan that he wanted to see if the county did something that if there was community support for it. He has the ability, like any other person would, to be part of the process to put in a SFD or RFP like anybody else would.
Can I ask just one more question?
Yes, sir.
I asked it at the last meeting. How can a man who is in bankruptcy put a bid?
I don't know if he's in bankruptcy, and I don't know if he has.
Well, he was in bankruptcy, and he was also being sued. I asked the question, who are people involved with John Bontraum? And I would not get an answer. If he's making a bid, he's bankrupt. He's got to have other people backing him, and we'd like to know who those people are.
And that's a question you would have to ask him, sir.
I did ask.
Okay.
Right. Well, we'll invite him to the public meeting and go from there. So related to your question, sir, and just in all fairness, I wanted to have there to be a sort of an agreement that questions like that could come out. So I'm glad that you. What for your question? Right. Okay, here's a question about the RFP process. Will community members be on the committee that decides on the equity of what is being lost versus what is being gained? Anybody? Sir? Yeah.
My name is Scott Hullock. I'm Vice President of the Greater Dundalk Community Council. We had a meeting last Thursday that Brian Shepard attended. Most of you may know Brian is the county executive's representative to this community. We had a lot of the same questions. I will at least relay what we were told that night. The first thing I will relate is that Brian knew nothing about this meeting, so.
That's not true.
I'm telling you,
That's
that's
not
not
true.
true.
He writes on Facebook
all the time. Okay. Procedure alert. I'll predict you a blizzard if you're not going to follow procedure. Done it before. Okay.
The other things that we were told. First of all,
Get a microphone. Get up there.
All right. Thank you.
so as I said, I'm with the Greater Dundalk Community Council. We had a meeting Thursday. Brian Shepard from the County Executive's Office was there. The couple of things that we were told. One was that the RFPs will be available electronically so that we'll all be able to see what the proposals are, because that was one of the questions we had, what would be proposed. Secondly, we did ask about who was going to be on the committee. What we were told is that it was mostly going to be county staff. We also urged that there should be some community representation on it. He also mentioned, though, that there is some talk of trying to have a meeting in early May with the county executive here in the Dundalk area. GDCC said that we'd be happy to help work on doing that to address just these very same issues. So that's what we had heard up until that point. So we'll keep everyone informed as well.
May is way too late.
Well, it's a month, so the bids are due
April 5th.
The bids are due April 5th, but then they've got to review the bids, and so
We
if
need the meeting really soon, not.
We
not
want our
later.
opinions known before the bids are reviewed.
I understand.
No, May is way too late.
Well, here's a related question to that. A gentleman from Dunlogan, Mr. Brotman, and he's here. Okay. And your question is sort of related to some that I've had. So if you want to go ahead.
Yeah. I wanted to know, guarantee that the new rec center would be open before the existing rec center is closed.
Yes. I mean, if that's what you guys want, and if that's what you
So,
agree
why is that not included as a provision in the RFP?
I hear what you're saying, and I agree that it should be
You
open.
won't accept anything unless a new center is open before the existing rec center. So if you won't accept anything else, everything else is off the table, you will say no.
That's what I will say.
Okay.
Right. And thank you.
There will be no interruptions in recreational programs.
And the gentleman has a good question. Other people have asked that similar question, and it was something that Ms. Debbie and I talked about was that, Dundalk High School, we had a very excellent procedure. I was involved in that along with many other people when the decision was to renovate, and so we spent a year discussing amongst the faculty and amongst the community, should we renovate the building? And then the county and the government decided, we could renovate for $97 million, or we could build new for $105 million. So we're thinking, and so of course the state matching funds and things like that. And in case you haven't noticed, there's a Titanic being built up the street, right? And the thing is, what's really nice about this is that it was an open, collaborative process, all the way around, right? And then of course, so we're going to have the students in the new building before the old building goes.
And I definitely want to talk about that because it's a little bit more than what you just said.
Right, understood.
Myself and Mr. Parker were the driving force in what's happening now at Dundalk High School. The high school was in deplorable conditions. We set up a meeting with the superintendent, who was Mr. Hairston, with the whole delegation, with the Board of Education, and with then representatives from the county executive office. They looked at it and said it would cost about $60 million to renovate the building for a 20-year lifespan. Or they came up with a plan that says we can spend $80 or $90 million, we can replace 2 schools and have a lifespan of 60 years with state-of-the-art school. And when you see this school, it's going to be a model for the country. We have a $100 million project sitting right here in Dundalk. And Ed, I want to thank you for bringing that to my attention and us being collaborative on that, because this community deserves something like that, and it's going to be like the centerpiece of our community. So I just wanted to give you the whole picture of why they did that instead of renovating.